Arkansas State baseball investing in Mike Silva. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, first, apologies for a lack of episodes last week. Last week was one of the crazier weeks ever. We'll probably go into that on my own podcast, SchultzyCast, but it was an odd week, a little bit of travel, and then, well, whatever happened, and it kind of threw me for a loop. So I do apologize for that. We did have some news, and so let's get to that. We'll talk about the Sun Belt Bowl tie-ins. Coastal Carolina's got a new AD, and maybe more importantly is that Arkansas State is investing in baseball, hiring Nichols, very successful coach, gone to the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, Mike Silva. And it's one of those things where, you know, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Back in the day, you know, when I first got here, and they're trying to avoid that, although some baseball teams did it. I know in softball, you know, the previous head coach, Mike Lateef, if there was weather issues and we're playing it, the Cajuns are playing is in Mike Lateef, Cajuns are playing a poor RPI team. Well, we're not making the trip. We're just going to cancel the series. And he did that. And we're going to cancel those games. And he did that, I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but it happened more than a couple of times while he was here. And the better Arkansas State can be, you can't have wins hurt you, right? You can't have a series that ends up hurting your team. And when you're playing Arkansas State and they're 218th in the RPI, that's going to hurt you. Now, the teams right above them, in fact, a bunch of teams right above them, have invested in their baseball program. It hasn't paid off yet, or will invest, right? ULM will be investing, okay? Marshall just opened up their new stadium this year, and Georgia State has plans for a new stadium. And now, finally, Arkansas State is getting around to spending a little bit of money to improve the product in Jonesboro. Kara Ritchie, our buddy from Jonesboro, and 107.9 KFIN and the Ticket Radio, also pregame for Red Wolves football. She broke it down really well and how much you're getting and what is expected. This is one of those few times where, maybe not few times, but the coach is interviewing the school maybe as much as the school is interviewing the coach. All right. Head coach salary prior to Mike Silva getting there was $125,000. Now it's up to $180,000. The assistant pool is now $200,000, which is potentially more than double. Then there's other things that Mike Ritchie wanted, or Mike Silva, sorry. Mike Silva wanted that you got to invest in a new field. All right. And I'm not talking new stadium, but just a field. And I think that's got to start maybe immediately. And then improvements to the stadium. And if those things don't happen, he can leave without money changing hands. Like if you promise me things and you don't get around to it, I can take off. And it doesn't cost me as much as it could have if, you know, for example, if he does win a Sun Belt Conference tournament title or a regular season, gets to an NCAA tournament, and all of a sudden he's going to be, again, another hot commodity. So he's got some things tied in to that as well. And it's important for Arkansas State, again, to not be the weak link. Now, there will be, obviously, someone's going to finish in last place. You can't, that's the way the world works. But, in the SEC, right, all the softball teams go to the NCAA tournament, deservedly or not, right? 11 baseball teams, deservedly or not. I still don't think Florida deserved to go, but they certainly took advantage of it and are playing in the College World Series. And so the better that the ULMs can get and the Arkansas States can get and the Marshalls can get and then the Georgia States can get, well, then all of a sudden, now maybe it's not just 4 teams that are going to the NCAA tournament. It's not just the Cajuns and Coastal and Southern Miss. I'm forgetting one. And JMU. All right. I think Texas State had a down year. I don't expect them to be down, but, Troy can go. And all of a sudden, Texas State can go. All of a sudden, that, 4th or 5th best conference in the NCAAs maybe can send 5 or 6 teams going. And all of a sudden, the worst RPI in the conference is, $150 or something like that. Give it up to Marshall, by the way. All right. I mean, they did not schedule soft. They didn't win a whole lot. But Marshall, according to Warren Nolan, how about this? 20 games versus Quad 1 teams. 20. I don't know how many that's in conference. But they were 1-19 against Quad 1 teams. They played the most games. Against Quad 1 teams. ULM was 1-7 against Quad 1 teams. Troy had maybe the only winning record. Troy and South Alabama had the only winning records in the conference against Quad 1 teams. Cajun 6-7, Southern Miss 7-9, Troy 6-5, JMU 7-9, Georgia Southern just 2-9. But how about Marshall with the scheduling 1-19 against Quad 1 teams? So you got to give it up to Marshall. And again, plans have been made. Marshall's already got their stadium. All right, I presume with the new ULM AD, they're going to invest in baseball because it may be the best bang for the buck because it doesn't cost as much as football does. And again, or basketball, right? You get one team in basketball. We haven't figured out a way to get more than one team in the NCAA tournament without somebody having a spectacular year, right? You don't. It is almost impossible for a team to do that, and you got to schedule, and no one wants to schedule you baseball wise. All right. What you see in Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, right? Texas, right? Those baseball teams don't mind matching up with in South Carolina and Clemson because their RPIs don't hurt them. It doesn't hurt them. In basketball, it tends to hurt them. But in baseball, LSU's playing La Tech. LSU's playing the Cajuns. Winning those games does not hurt LSU. Whereas Cajuns beating Arkansas State doesn't necessarily help the Cajuns. And if you lose one of those games, which they did this year, but then they won 16 in a row, that's going to really hurt you. Although at the time, Arkansas State was off to a really good start this season and then just fell apart once conference play started. So good to see Arkansas State investing, and that helps the rest of the conference. That's outstanding. So good job. Congratulations to Mike Silva. He's done a really good job. Not the easiest place to win down in Thibodaux. Had a really explosive offensive team this year, and congratulations on them having a great year. And congratulations to Arkansas State for helping out. I look at it as helping out the rest of the conference. All right. Also news, Coastal Carolina named their new AD from the SEC. All right. We'll talk about Chance Miller and the task that he's got to do next after I tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We'll get to the Sunbelt tie-ins to wrap things up, but Coastal Carolina going after South Carolina's Chance Miller as the new AD. And I saw some people, which might mean one. Why does the Sunbelt go after, Power Four? We got to get that right? Power Four executives when they could promote from within. All right. Well, they know how to get the money. They see how it works on a bigger level, come down here and maybe lift things up. Okay. And I'll be the first to say, I don't know the issues that Coastal Carolina has. All right. That, everything seems to be pretty good. Got to turn basketball around. And that was kind of a tough year with Cliff Ellis retiring, but they've been good in football now for a handful of years. And baseball, they had won a national championship and, kind of wavered at the end of this season, but still made the NCAA tournament. But it will be interesting to see, because I think and it was a real interesting time, because when when Brian Maggard and the SEC guys came into the Cajuns, they tried to bring a little bit too much SEC to UL, and it backfired. Now, it should be mentioned, and I don't know the order of all of these things, but Brian Maggard had a rough, 2 or 3 years to begin with. All right. I don't think it was any surprise when he came in, he was going to hire a new football coach. That was, it was probably time for Mark Hudspeth to move on, unfortunately, for HUD, but he, struggled that year. All right. Had some on-field issues and some off-field issues. So that was probably expected. All right. But then the Mike Lateef thing landed in his lap. And then Tony Robichaux passes away. All right. And then Jerry Glasgow's daughter passes away. It was just one tragedy after another. And so it took him a little bit of time. I'm working on all of this stuff that has nothing to really do, I can't really do anything about, and it's keeping everything and the trains moving on time, so to speak. And it was really tough. But I just remember when they came in here and they charged for parking. All right. Not that much money, and it's not that long a walk, right? You could be parking on, right up against the gate on Bertrand, and you're still in the lot. All right. Now there's been some issues with that since, but I remember someone telling me, not only back then, but even this year, they went to that Alabama Cajuns game and they were like, well, they're charging like $25 to park a couple of miles away from the stadium. Excuse me. And I said, well, first of all, that stadium is filled. Yours isn't. Let's try not to compare, the best football program in the history of college football to what we got going on here. All right. You came in not at the peak of Cajun football, which maybe is when I showed up in 2013, right? That was year 3 of the Hudspeth turnaround. And it had, repeated itself 4 times going to the New Orleans Bowl and then missed and then went back to the New Orleans Bowl, right? So I went to the New Orleans Bowl 5 out of 6 years. And that's going to be something we talk about here in the next segment. But it kind of was going down at that point in time. And then you charge for parking. Now, at the same time, the Cajuns are in debt. So you got to find some way to make some money somewhere. But it's kind of tough to do that, right? It'll be interesting to see. I know Brian Maggard was at A&M for the regional. If you can institute some of that, as I mentioned on here with the self-serve concessions, may save you a lot of money and get more people in and out of line quicker. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what they do at South Carolina. I presume, right? He's going to get settled in before he has to do anything, right? Nothing's going on. They're planning, for football season, and I don't know how much change he wants to institute without seeing what was going on beforehand, right? This is kind of, we're going to take this year, all right? Maybe we institute a little bit here and a little bit there, but we're going to take this year and figure out what we need to improve it, all right? Kind of deal, right? We're not making any massive changes until it's necessary, unless they are suggesting that we can do some changes. Like I said, I'm not aware of the coastal athletic department as much maybe as the Cajuns or South Alabama. So this would be kind of like let's figure out where we are, right? At the same time, I know, let me see here. When John John Hartwell got the gig at ULM, well, he knew what the issues were there. Maybe that's different. All right, maybe Chance might know the difference, what's going on at Coastal Carolina. The issue at ULM was money, right? And he came to the conclusion very quickly that they hadn't gotten around to asking. You got to ask, right? And you may get a no at maybe the first time, and maybe even the second time. But all of a sudden, you start to show progress, which I think they will with football this season. And you will, all of a sudden, they're going to start answering your phone calls, third time, fourth time. And so we'll see what they want to do with Coastal Carolina. I wouldn't go too far too fast is the only thing, right? I think maybe attendance is a thing for baseball. Was there a lot of people there? I know it was warm when the Cajuns went there, but that was a big series, and it didn't seem like it was a huge crowd, to be honest with you, from what we could see. I don't know what they draw in basketball. I don't think the arena is that big. And, you want to pack it in for football. So it's a great opportunity for Chance Miller. He gets it. This is the time when this happens, right? When did, John Hartwell got that? Well, John Hartwell was going to get the Auburn job. And that was at the end of football season. I was still doing a high school football game when John Cohen got the job. I'm pretty sure John Hartwell got the, relatively, December or so, or January. He got that ULM job rather quickly after Cohen got the Auburn job. So it'll be interesting to see what they implement. And please, Coastal Carolina fans, please let me know what you think needs improvement and what can be instituted to do so. So, all right, let's take one more time out. We'll come back. We'll go over the Sunbelt tie-ins, which have not changed for 2024. Let me tell you a little bit about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more and more. And you can bet on all of it on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We may look to do a little bit of that, a little bit of baseball, a little bit of in-game betting. Yankees are the best damn team in Major League Baseball, and yet every time they're on TV, or at least I'm watching, they don't win. Crazy. Not on Friday, they win. On Saturday and Sunday, they lose. I feel like it's me. Well, that would be one way to go betting on it. All right, so maybe we'll do a little bit of that. Certainly going to do some futures in college football. Over-unders. Can I get my Orange to do 12-0? Can you bet on that? Can you bet on Syracuse to make the playoff? I don't know if it's going to happen, but I bet you can get good odds. All right, let's wrap things up on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's talk about the Sunbelt tie-ins. I'm having a weird thing with all of my technology. I don't understand what's going on. All right, we had it here, and I got to redo it. All right. It is what it is. I don't think it's going to take long for me to do it. You know who had it was Scott Watkins had it. Let me just do Sunbelt Bowls. Let's see. No. Sunbelt Bowl tie-ins. I do not know what's going on here. There we go. It is Scott Watkins. All right. Camellia Bowl is Saturday night, December 14th, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's in Orlando, right? Oh, no. Camellia Bowl is in Montgomery. That could be a little chilly. That could be a little chilly. The New Orleans Bowl is on a Thursday night. They did that for South Alabama. Although at that time, that was like the only game going on. South Alabama took it on the chin to Western Kentucky that year. But that may be the only game that night. Cure Bowl is a noon on Friday, December 20th. The Myrtle Beach Bowl is December 23rd at 11 a.m. That is early on a Monday. That's a little rough. That's a little rough. Monday, December 23rd, that's rough. All right. And then Thursday, the day after Christmas, Thursday, December 26th, at 9 p.m., ball game, 68 Ventures Bowl. That's one in Mobile. That'd be 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central. So those games are late. Myrtle Beach Bowl is a rough one. How many people are watching that one? The other ones are all pretty good, although Friday at noon isn't great, although that may be when a lot of vacations start. You just need some more tie-ins, right? That's where, and who knows if they want to do this, right? It's like a non-win situation for a Power 4 squad to go up against, a Group of 5 school. But that's what, the Sun Belt wants. You want to play, even if it's a middling, Illinois or Syracuse or Rutgers, right? You're not going to get a top, 20 team in most of those cases, unless, you're almost in the playoff, unless you have a JMU type season or a Coastal Carolina type season. I think Texas State may have that this year. But, the matchups aren't necessarily going to be great. I thought the Cajuns, Jacksonville State was a great game. Didn't go the Cajuns' way last year, but that ended up being a really good game. Cajuns may have underestimated Jackson State a little bit. Jacksonville State. I say Jackson State? No, Jacksonville State. Sorry, Jacksonville State. They may have underestimated them. The thing we remember about South Alabama was, Gio Lopez having a monster game, and then the, cheap shot punch after the game. That was not a great look. Coastal got a big win. Then they go out to Hawaii, and then Butch Jones almost came up with a win. That was a disappointing, tough loss. That was a tough loss at the end. And who else went out to the mountains? Was that Georgia Southern had a win. Georgia State? Let me see. No, I got it. Now I'm going to take a minute here to Sun Belt Conference bowl games. Let's see here. Football schedule. Let's see what's at the end. All right, Troy lost to Duke. That was in Birmingham. That was a tough loss because that may have been without the coach, John Summerall, but it was without Riley Leonard for Duke. He was banged up. Air Force beat James Madison. Signetti was out of there by then. Oh, Georgia State did go out to Utah State and beat them out in Boise. South Alabama hammered Eastern Michigan. Coastal beat San Jose State, and Texas State ends up beating Rice in Dallas. And did they run out of beer before half? Seem to remember having issues seeing lines at the stadium there. So I don't have an answer for that one. How do you get better bowl tie-ins? That seems to be a Sun Belt ESPN issue rather than how does the Sun Belt improve it on their own. Some of those games are not great times. I do think that the tricky one for Texas State is actually going to be that UTSA game. If they get past that ball game and take down Arizona State, they do not have the toughest of all schedules. Just saying. Like Boise is getting a lot of love for the group of 5. Watch out for Texas State. All right. GJ Kinney's going to see this and call it rat poison, but that's what it's not what it is. I think if Jordan McLeod is Jordan McLeod and Mahdi is healthy, they're going to be, and their defense improves just a little bit, they're going to be tough. That they're going to have a little bit. They're going to have a shot at having a special season. All right. I will say I said the same thing about South Alabama, and that blew up in my face. So take that for what it's worth. All right. We'll see if we can get more episodes this week. Phil Steele's magazine's coming out. I know all the teams did their preseason. He put out the preseason All-Americans, and all the teams put out their tweets. I want to be able to see if I can see a list of it from Phil Steele. So either have to wait for the magazine or subscribe, to VIP, which is okay. I could do that. It's a great episode. It's a great magazine. All right. I tend to get it. I will be home. I'll be here for another week, and then I'm going home to Syracuse for 2 weeks. As the family gets together, we get to go home and see Mama Schultz. All right. So we will do that in about a week. So, and we'll talk some other things as well for the Sun Belt. So thanks so much. We're actually up to 1,265. We got some people joining. We've had a good run of episodes before I stopped doing them last week. So really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a great week. And you've been watching Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day.